Hi everyone, welcome to class number 3. We're going to cover negative space and we are going to draw a deer. So join us for a fun hour of sketching. Bonjour à tous, bienvenue au cours numéro 3 du dessin d'observation de nature. Aujourd'hui, on va parler un peu plus en détail de l'espace négatif, donc l'espace de contour des formes qui va nous aider à améliorer notre dessin. Et on va dessiner un cerf, une espèce qu'on voit souvent ici au Canada. Hey everyone, so a quick recap of what we've covered so far. You could check the earlier videos for some more information about gesture drawing and proportion, negative space, which we will go into more detail today, 3D shape contour, and shading. So that's the list of what we will be covering today. It sounds intimidating, but it's not. They're all really simple steps, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, everyone, as a quick recap for our negative shape exercise, if you remember, negative shape is actually drawing the shape that is outside and little cutaway areas within the shape. So instead of drawing the iris, I would be drawing the shape around the iris. It sounds tricky, but it takes a little bit of practice and you will get into it. Just as a quick explanation, here I have my Eastern white pine. And so in the exercise, what I would like you guys to focus on, instead of drawing, a detailed version of the tree, we're going to do a loose gesture for placement and proportion. And then we are going to focus on the space outside and the cutaway areas of sky that are inside the tree. So nailing negative shape is really going to help to give shape and it's really going to help to give precision to your drawing. So we are drawing the air around the tree. Ignore the clouds. We're not doing a detailed sky. We're just really focusing on getting into all those little areas, all those little bumps, and all the little areas of white inside. So let's get started. Here I have my tree with the kind of orange negative shape sort of as reference. You can skip that step. It was just for demo. What I'm going to do is grab my HB pencil. I got this from my son's school kit. And we're going to start loosely doing a gesture drawing. Just for media purposes, I'm going to use a darker one, but don't just use HB as it's much easier to erase. So my loose gesture, as you can recall, it is really, we're working from the shoulder, from the elbow, and we are just working on blocking out the basic shape of the tree. What I like to do when I'm drawing trees is drawing the full branches and covering them with the clumps after. I find it really helps to have continuous lines. So remember, these are loose lines and they're not really supposed to be final in any way. So don't feel intimidated. Just get used to roughing them in. I can do a little sort of a outline of the shape if that helps me. What I'm going to do is just check my gesture is loose, then I'm going to check the proportion, just make sure that the length of the branches is fitting what I'm seeing. So a lot of these guidelines are going to be erased after. And guys, I just want to encourage you to keep updating our group with your beautiful art. We are putting together a booklet after the class is over, and it will feature some student work. So even if you're a beginner, don't be intimidated and share your work with us. Okay, I've got a rough I'm going in really fast, but this can totally be a slow process as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to like see the leaves as clumps instead of as individual. Obviously, these are pine needles, so that would be really tough. Kind of like a claw shape, a little bit, in a lot of places. And I'm going to be erasing out some of the leaves, the branches, sorry, after. Oops. No, that was my notifications, guys. Going ahead and just creating those clumps. So we are on this step called gesture, right? Loose, not final. And take your time with this. Remember that we are looking 2 times more at our object than our drawing paper. You can keep moving your hand. You don't have to be looking at your pencil, but you are trying to capture what you see instead of, sort of our symbolic imagination of what we think is there. And that is an important step to remember, that we draw as much as possible what we see. Just for this purposes of this class, obviously stylization and symbolism are super important to art, just in terms of just drawing from nature. This is what we're going to be following in this class. I would love to make more videos about stylization, the stylization process, because that is a huge topic and a really fun one. But for the purposes of this class, we are doing observation drawing, and it can be a good first step. Okay. Hey, guys, I have a basic shape. I'm okay with the proportions, even though I kind of started a bit high. But what I'm going to do now is, instead of going into line work or 3D blocking, I'm going to cut away some negative space. So I'm going to go around and just pay attention to all those little bumps. And I'm going to create you can give it a little bit of exterior shading if you want. It's really meant to be like an imprint. And any type of line is okay. You can do sketching, you can do a strong, bold line. I like to vary the pressure. I just really, really like this kind of drawing, so that's what I'm going to do. You see that? I've got this cutaway here corresponding to this. And the idea here is not to get like a perfect final drawing, but just to kind of learn to see things differently. And this is also really good for your brain, to trick your brain, because the logic part of the brain tends to be really loud, telling you like, this is how things are supposed to look. And when you give it a frustrating task like drawing the shape around, it kind of just shuts off and lets you get on with it. So it could be a really good tool for just being in the moment. So I think that negative shape, awareness of negative shape is super important when you're drawing trees. Because working backwards can really help us to draw in a new way and sharpen our faculties. Okay guys, this is not meant to be a very detailed exercise, but more like a 15-minute warm-up. So we are going to move on to our next. Okay, so we are going to do a little bit more into our 3D blocking. It's kind of nice we don't have to draw the legs for this. That's a good beginner one. Just my nose, because I know the nose is a bit of an area that people were struggling with. So let's just break it down. Triangle, a rectangle, another rectangle, some edges, curved edges, and inside as well. Okay. This is my 3D blocking stage. I'm pretty happy with it. It is a quick sketch. I think we can move on to contour. Contour line. Contour line. Grab a darker pencil. Go ahead and work all of those lines, the ones that are accurate. You could ignore the ones that you're not happy with. We're going to outline the shape. We are also going to outline areas within the shape. Feel free to use an eraser if you need it. I need to go sharpen my pencil, you guys. Again, this is a 4B pencil. And you can go ahead and buy yourself a set, but I honestly don't think you need them. But just one HB, one 4B should be enough. Don't hesitate to use your eraser. We have a lot of gesture lines in there, and they're not all necessary anymore. I think I do repeat myself a lot, but I do think it's really beautiful to leave them. But for a more cleaner look, or if you're doing contour with a marker, definitely don't want to erase those. So there's deer, a lot of deer in my neighborhood. They are so active this time of year. Oh my goodness. They are looking for apples. They are feeding, they are exploring, they're so brave. They're not afraid of people at all. And it just makes me really happy to see these gentle creatures. A lot of people in my area hunt deer as well, and I didn't really know what to think about it when I moved here. And I was like, is that, bad for them as a species? It's kind of interesting, but as I've learned, in Eastern Canada, deer have absolutely no predators other than like the occasional human, that I think they have a 2-week window a year or something like that to hunt. And so deer are destroying our forests. They eat all of the baby trees, and they don't have predators because we just don't have the cougars and the bigger creatures that are more common in the West Coast, other than coyotes, I guess the occasional wolf. But so apparently, I don't know, this is a bit controversial, but eating deer is seen by some people as an ecologically friendly gesture. I just like to watch them. Personally, I'm not a hunter, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting piece of information. They are absolutely everywhere. So here I'm going to erase my gesture line just so I can get a better handle on my contour. Then we are going to move into the shading. And so keep in mind, when you're doing your contour, you can also go ahead and gently outline lighter or darker areas to help you later on. I'm pretty happy with this. Okay. So next is our shading, and it is very much an intro. We are going to take our 4B, and we're going to just practice creating little swatches of dark to light. I'm going to create 4. I think that that's enough for a beginner to keep track of. And it's actually enough for a quick drawing anyway. So I'm creating 4 areas of shading, from darkest to light. So what we're going to do now is, it's really useful having a black and white printout for this exercise actually, so it works really well. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue with my gentle outlining, and I'm going to start filling in those areas with different degrees of shading. So I'm going to try to match what I see. It's really important to remember where the light is coming from when you're shading. In this case, the light's coming from here, which means that anything the light hits on this side is going to be lighter than underside is going to be in shadow. Light's coming. There's a bit of light on this side as well. So because I drew so dark, my contour, my gesture was so dark for media purposes, so I have a lot of erasing to do. to bring the light back in, because there's a lot of layers. But if you use a very light HB, you should be okay. So here I'm just looking at the shape of. I'm gonna also include the optional exercise in this video, which takes shading and 3D blocking to another level. This is going to be our next exercise after the deer. I'm using my finger just to blend. Of course, there are blending tools. We're just keeping the materials really basic in this class because it's a beginner-friendly class, which means that people might not have invested in their supplies, and we don't want people to be deterred. I also think that it's actually amazing what you can do with very little, and so you can use a tissue as well if you don't want to use your finger. And if you over blend an area, you could just use your eraser to bring back some light into it. Also keep track of your shape when you're shading. The direction of the fur can also be a really good way to shade. There's a lot of styles that you can do. As long as you're getting the shape of the dark area correct, it's going to work. Some people like to just shade all in one direction. Others like to more follow the shape of 3D contour lines. So as you draw, you're going to, you're really going to come up with your own preference. Okay, that's why I like the 4B. It's more blendable than the HB, and you get darker, you get more graphite. And keeping I'd love to do a bird next week. Let me know what you guys think. I think it'd be a really fun way to blend all of our new skills. Yay! Starting to look like a deer. If you don't have a color printout, a black and white printout, you could, or if you're working from a direct example in nature, you actually could look at what you're drawing through a red filter, photo filter, and it'll help you to figure out where the darkest areas and the lightest areas are. Cutie pie. They have such long eyelashes. They're so cute. What I did in the drawing class earlier today is that I actually outlined the grass. I outlined the grass with the eraser. So you can do that if you want. And we're going to bring the shading all the way down. And then we can pull it back up a little bit. I do find that this kind of, it's one of my favorite ways is to get the paper all dirty, I guess, and then to work it back with some erasing. And I can introduce you if you are wanting to take things a bit further and you really like this way of working. If you've ever seen one of these, it's like a type of smudger. Helps to smudge the gray. The one that I really like to use is called a chamois, and it's like a little piece of suede, and it could be really good for covering large areas with gray and smudging it. So they're the things that I like to use. You also can get these erasers in a smaller look. You can get them like this if you want. So if you want to be super precise with your erasing, those are things to use as well. Or you could use the tip, but not mandatory for this class. As long as you have a pencil and paper, you're good. And an eraser. Gonna leave it at that for today. You guys send me some videos or pictures of what you're working on. I'm just gonna pop in and print my rock optional exercise, and I'll be right back. Hi everyone, here's a quick exercise that you can do to improve your understanding of 3D shape. So in our shared drive, I have this picture of some rocks. I took this picture when I was hiking, and it is in color in our drive. I really like this picture because you could really see really clearly the 3D shapes and how the different shading are going to affect the overall 3D look. So what I'm going to do is start drawing my gesture, and I'm going to do this quickly, just drawing the different angles and planes of the rocks. I mean, if you can go out and draw rocks, I would much prefer that. It's really cold here. I cannot spend too long outdoors sitting, but I will probably go back to this spot in the spring and draw these rocks for real. For now, I have a picture, and I'm just gesturing loosely, moving from my elbow. Okay, I'm gonna just leave it up here because there's a tree here, so I'm gonna just leave it. And it's important, you know, you're working with a photo, there's a lot of detail, but really when you're drawing, just focus on the parts that really interest you and just leave out the rest. Okay, so we have our gesture in this, because we're drawing rocks and they're kind of part of a mountain, so negative shape's not really a concern of mine. Neither is proportion. I don't think it matters too much in this, for the context of this exercise. You know, if you get this size is exactly right, you can spend a little time just measuring out, making sure that it makes sense to you. But what we really want to focus on is the 3D blocking, as you can know, figuring out which direction the planes are going. So that's really going to help you with your shading. So I'm going to start breaking everything down into simple 3D. And focus on the edges. The more you get these areas the right shape, the more you're going to feel satisfied when you're doing your shading. Like, I think you'll be happy with the result. So we're going with structure, 3D structure. It's kind of like architectural, a little bit. Like we're drawing kind of like the walls, the roof, all of the 3D. And we're just doing a detailed area. We're not doing the whole drawing. It's really just a warm-up practice. And if you do take up this challenge and you want to share your result, you know, even if your drawing looks totally abstract, I would totally encourage you to just reach out and let me know how you found it. It's okay. It's not have to be perfect. I'm going to work on the 3D shape a bit more, and then I'm going to start breaking things down into the shading. And I know this is challenging, guys. I'm really proud of you for trying. And just committing to improving a little bit every day. So remember the shading? I'm going to do darkest to lightest and 2 shades in between. I feel like that's enough for this exercise. So just try to observe how they meet up. You're often going to see like a line because these rocks are so square. See lines and observe the gradation. remember that what's gonna really help your drawing is if you can nail the actual shape of those darker and lighter areas. So I'm gonna outline it gently. So here we're just working with 3D and shading. I find it helps also to draw directionally, which means that you kind of change the direction of your drawing when you change surface. So like this flat part, I'm doing this, but when I meet, I can change. When I meet at the top and do the flat area, I can do a So that's a way that you can explore rock formations, and I encourage you to just try this out and use our sheet as practice. Our last exercise, which is a bonus exercise, is going to be our fern drawing. And this is also a really fun challenge if you are interested in learning more about negative space. So I'm going to start with the spine. I'm going to create an oval shape for each of the lobes. I find it helpful in this context to just plan out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just plan out the increments of where you're going to be placing those lobes. 2, 3. I just find that helpful so you don't get too squeezed at the top. And then I'm just going to draw those shapes directionally or in the gesture. And so today we're just focusing really on drawing from observation, what we can observe in nature. And there's a really amazing process that we can talk about in more advanced class of stylizing the natural elements to create your own unique designs. It's something I really, really love talking about and I'm really passionate about, so stay tuned for some more information about that. So I'm just ignoring all the bumps because right now I'm just going for the gestural shape. And if you were drawing this kind of fern as well, you can see in the corner there, it would be the same process. Just I picked this particular one because its lobes are very large for a beginner. I love this, it looks like a crown. Okay, this is loose, right? And it's not final, but it's giving me an idea of where my placement is. I kind of combined this gesture shape and the proportion shape as well by just putting markings for myself. So I'm pretty happy about the placement. I can just spend a bit more time making sure I've got the length right. Kind of modified it a little bit because of my page size, but I'm pretty happy with the results. So I'm going to move to native space, and this can be a really fun challenge. It's just going to be to go in and draw all of these in between shapes. I think it's going to be super fun. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I like to pick the right side, just I'm right-handed. You can also draw yourself the spine of these fronds here, just to give yourself a center. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and shade my negative space. So it'll be a really cool cutout effect. So it's kind of interesting to see how these meet, two sides meet, because I'm looking at the space in between as much as possible. So it's kind of cool how So this is, I'm combining our negative space exercise with our fern exercise. There are so many other ways that you could draw the fern. For example, you don't have to shade the area around it. You could just focus on, once you have the negative space drawn out, you could focus on contour. And obviously the color version is on the drive. You could work in some color as well. And I think that that would be really beautiful. You could also finish it up in waterproof marker and then have it dry with watercolor. Always really satisfying. I also gave you guys a demo in class for whoever was there of how to digitize your art and work on top of your existing drawing. So that would be a more kind of advanced technique where you could build off of what you created by hand digitally. But I like to keep it hand drawn. You know, it's like there's just so much that AI can do. But I had a thought that actually I get so much out of drawing that getting an AI to draw for me would be like getting a robot to exercise for me or do yoga for me. You guys, I'm in it because of how it makes me feel and how like wonderful and confidence building and relaxing drawing is. So as much as you could generate any image within seconds, I honestly don't even care, because those pictures can just inspire me for my own art, but I get so much out of improving my drawing skills, and it is really something that you could take with you in life and use in so many contexts. It's a wonderful teaching tool. It's a wonderful learning tool. It's a way to reflect. It's a meditation. So yeah, long story short, I don't compare my work even to other people's work, because I know what I've been through in my life, and I know what hurdles I've overcome. And so the fact that I have time to practice right now is so wonderful and such a gift, and that I get to connect with you guys and teach other people to love drawing. So I would just say that you can just compare yourself to yourself where you're at, and just work for a little more focus, a little more presence, a little more calm, stretching your patience a little bit more. Yeah. And I think that that's where the growth is. And I think that it can be really overwhelming and fast-paced when you look at all of the art that's out there and how quickly people are creating it. So I just really don't think it's good to jump on that kind of bandwagon. It's really stressful and tiring to feel like you have to produce art for others. I would just say focus on that brings you joy and happiness, and start with that good intention. And I think that that will radiate outwards and create some really beautiful changes in your life. Can you imagine if we replaced an hour of scrolling our phone and getting stressed out about all of the crazy things happening in the world and feeling justifiably really upset about everything that's happening? Imagine if you replaced that with 1 hour of observing, reflecting, meditating on the beautiful world that's around you. Even the tiniest plants in the cracks of the sidewalk often have medicinal purposes, and that like the whole environment is constantly thriving and growing around us and changing day to day. Anyway, it might make you feel a little bit more grounded and a little bit more, I don't know, capable of making a really beautiful change in this world and working for the good. Alright, that's just my 2 cents. Love you guys.